Hey, how's it going? So right now, mid-April 2020, there are no competitive events on the calendar for any sport whatsoever. So one question that has come up for some people is how to stay motivated and how to keep training when there's nothing to train for specifically. And for me, I remember I feel like I have a few thoughts on this. I remember when I was in high school, I got into endurance sports, I got into running, and I really loved it. Over the course of those 4 years, I got progressively better. I was never very good at it, and I started off being super mediocre. Over time, I got to be pretty good locally in my league, but in the grand scheme of things, I was way off of what you would need to be doing if you wanted to be competitive nationally or to go to a D1 school and be competitive in college, let alone, become a professional runner. But I just really loved doing it, and I just found it to be the coolest hour or two each day that I could be, spending my time outside of school. And so I kept doing it basically from I did cross country my freshman year. I had 2 months off, and then from track in the spring of my freshman year of high school until now, except for having very serious injuries, I've never taken a break from regular training. Sure, I take days off, maybe easy weeks, even a few weeks or a month easy, but I've never taken extended breaks from training unless I broke a bone and literally couldn't be doing anything. So for me, it's just been such an integral part of my experience of life, and it's something that I really love doing. And, I've been fortunate enough that, at least in cycling, as I've trained, I've been able to get to a certain level of performance that, allowed me to race professionally for a few years and perform at a pretty high level for a while. And I just really love that. I feel lucky that that was the case, but the fact that I ended up, racing the Tour of California and getting top 5 at US Pro TT and setting a bunch of KOMs on Strava is really fun. But the fact that that's not necessarily intrinsically what is what's valuable to me. I feel the kind of intrinsic value to me is just training hard and getting better and being disciplined about it and trying to be the best at that activity that I can be. So I feel it's not really that different from if you play a musical instrument and you want to be, as good as you can be, whether you're playing at weddings or just playing for fun, or you go, to nightclubs or bars and you do some jazz or whatever it is that you do. Or if you're fucking Yo-Yo Ma and you're the best, cello player in the world. And it's just the process of practicing and getting better is intrinsically, very rewarding for me. So I remember as I graduated high school and I went to college, I went to Cal, which is just a mile from where I live currently. And, I knew that I wanted to focus on being a good student, and I didn't want to have a conflict of interest between my training and going to races and spending a lot of time and attention on being a competitive athlete while I was trying to be an exceptional student at the same time. So I took that several year period, and decided that I wouldn't be competitive, but I kept training and kept trying to get better at running. So I would run 4, 5, 6 days a week. I would ride 2 or 3 days a week, and I would go to the gym for short, general strength training sessions a few times a week. And I kept getting better throughout that time. It was only late in college that I started to transition more towards a focus on cycling and then just cycling pretty exclusively. But for the first, for 4 years, I kept getting better at running, and eventually I found that I was better at cycling and, kind of pursued that for a while. But for 4 years, I didn't have any competitions. I did a couple, late in college, my junior and senior year, I did 2 very local 10Ks where there were 20 or 30 people that showed up. It was a charity run, and that was fun. I, ran pretty fast for the standard that I was, going for. But just the process of training every day, doing my VO2 max intervals on the track, doing my long runs on the weekend, trying to see if I couldn't get better at doing, my 400s and 800s and mile repeats on the track was just intrinsically very satisfying to me. And there was no particular like goal in mind. Like I knew I didn't have any potential of becoming like an Olympic runner or anything like that. And at that time, I hadn't recognized that I maybe had the capacity to be an exceptional cyclist. So I was just doing it for the sake of doing it, and just doing it for the sake of the satisfaction of getting better than I had previously been. And I found that very rewarding. And I feel like, at this moment in time, my experience is that I'm kind of right back in that moment where it's like there's literally nothing that I could be training for that's an external event that I'm like, going to go drive to do a road race or a hill climb or a gravel race or something like that. Like right now, I'm literally just training to train and just training for whatever it is that I come up with in my head to pursue. And in this particular moment, I'm trying to, build up my aerobic fitness, lose a couple pounds of weight, and improve my core strength so that hopefully I can try to go for some fast Strava times on hills around here that that are some of my favorite segments, and I would like to, I guess we'll see with time. Like maybe, hopefully I can set some KOMs. A lot of hills I already have the KOM. There's a few that I don't, and there's a few that I would like to beat my old KOMs or PRs on. And like just the whole process of working on that the next 3 or 4 or 5 months is very valuable to me, and I'm going to keep going at it hard. And I'm also going to give myself the freedom to like take easier days and not beat myself up if I have a bad workout, or at this moment, like there's a public health issue that is affecting everyone. It's affecting the economy. It's affecting jobs of millions of people, and that's no joke. And I really can't I don't know. It's hard to know what to make of that, because I know that a lot of people are in a pretty tough spot. And I know that on one level, governments are trying to step in and mitigate the downside of the situation. They're also bungling it in a variety of ways. And, it can be frustrating. It can be very stressful. And there's definitely days where you might check the news and you might get really depressed or anxious. You might be really concerned because you don't know what the future will hold. Those are all, very valid concerns. But at the very least, if you are a competitive athlete, if you are somebody that includes physical exercise as a part of your regular routine, definitely keep doing that. It's going to make your experience of life a lot better. And if you stop doing that, it's going to open the door for a lot higher levels of anxiety and depression, and it's going to have a detrimental effect on your health. Like we all know that exercise is really important for our health, and especially now, all the more reason to stay healthy and active and fit. But like for me, I'm really loving the challenge of, trying to balance my training so that I have like really stressful workouts and easier workouts while I'm also maintaining my regular coaching workload. And it's fun. Like I don't necessarily need to go out and race this weekend to know that I'm getting better, know that I'm challenging myself, know that I'm like emptying the tank on some efforts that I'm doing, or that I'm holding back because I'm like trying to be smart about it and not just kind of randomly like, chase some like random hill just because I feel like it. And the discipline and the practice of doing that is, for me at least, intrinsically very rewarding. And, some people find a lot more motivation or find it easier to kind of calibrate their efforts if they do have a race to shoot for. But since that doesn't exist right now, I might consider ways that you could kind of integrate some sort of competition into your practice of being an athlete, whether that's having virtual races with your training partners that you normally go out and you run or ride or whatever, but see if maybe you can go after some of the same Strava segments and like try to beat each other if you're at a similar level, or see if you can't track each other's training and see who can like have the longest streak of days that you're training, or set up dates on the calendar, pick days that on the weekend or on the weekdays where you normally do your hard workouts, and treat it like a race. Go out and do a 5K or a 10K or a half marathon. Go out and do a time trial up a big hill near you that you are very familiar with, and prepare for it and treat it like it's a race, and just do your best effort. Even if there's no one else around you, you can still have that same kind of experience, but in this case you would just be trying to beat a standard that you set for yourself or beat a previous best time that you have. and that can be very valuable. Or, if you haven't, like maybe you've reached a high level of fitness in the past and you've been like active but not in peak shape for a while, like me, like a handful of years ago I was in really great shape and I've been in very good shape since then. But there's a big difference between 90 or 95% and 100% fitness for any of you that have really reached a good peak in the past. And so pretty much anytime I want to, if I'm feeling fresh, I can go low 9 to 9:30 on Wildcat, which is a kind of intermediate climb around here. But my PR on peak fitness with race wheels on and really going for it is 8 minutes. And it's the difference between 9 minutes going hard right now versus 8 minutes is huge. But I also know that that's attainable again if I train and put a lot of attention on doing my best to train and recover and treat my body well, and hopefully not let the public health issues in the world or the economic issues, they're out there and they're real, and it's good to be aware of them, but you don't have to kind of absorb them and think about them and always hold them in your mind and in your heart and get really dragged down by that. Our bodies, our brains, they're hardwired to be anxious, and worrying about the uncertainty of the future, if there's some action that you can take about it to mitigate the downside or to avoid a problem, definitely do that. But otherwise, just thinking about the uncertainty of the future and not knowing what's going to happen and worrying about what might happen and worrying about what might happen to you, that's not helpful. And being just embracing that anxiety and having that as an ongoing thing is just really not very helpful. And I say that from experience, but also just I've long had an interest in neuroscience and psychology, and it's kind of well known that regretting things in the past and worrying about things in the future when there isn't a particular action that you can take to kind of in the present prepare for or make the future better, it's not really helpful to just be worried all the time. So definitely try to keep your routine of being active and healthy and fit and exercise regularly. It will help take the edge off of your anxiety and help you, stay grounded in whatever way in which you want to train, whether you're just doing it for the health of it or you're doing it because you want to go smash some PR that you haven't been able to beat for 5 years because you were in great shape a while ago. Hopefully now you have the time to do it because you're not commuting and you're working from home, and you can maybe reorient your schedule a little bit so you get a half an hour more sleep and you get another half an hour to train every day. I'm not saying that you should be doing that, but if that was a priority for you, there's a lot bad in the current moment for a lot of people, but there's also a lot of opportunity because we can reconfigure our work schedules, we can learn new skills, we can spend more time with our family or the people that we lived with. And so as much as it's a challenging time for a lot of people, and as much as it can be very challenging to not pay attention to the worst aspects of the present moment, hopefully we can all enjoy interacting with each other in a way that's meaningful, and hopefully focus on some of the things that we can proactively do to make our experience of life better and make us be more empathetic and more patient and better functioning humans, for our own sake and for the sake of others around us. And at least for me, and I think for a lot of you, regular exercise or even, very strenuous training is a part of what allows us to be hopefully the best version of ourselves. So I would encourage you to come up with, goals or priorities in your training and activities that will allow you to remain focused and maintain your training routine, whether it's half an hour a day or 3 hours a day or somewhere in between, whatever it is that is going to be good for you and good for your health and fitness. I would encourage you to come up with something that works for you to keep you kind of dialed into whatever your North Star is for the physical activities that you do. So again, just enjoying the process of trying to challenge yourself and get better, or, pick some days and try to go set a PR on some distance that you like or some climb that you like. There's a lot of ways to, keep enjoying training even when there are no 10Ks to do and there are no bike races and there are no triathlons and you're just doing it on your own. I don't know. I find it really satisfying, but I know that can be challenging. So just come up with, or try to look for ways to come up with a story in your head that you can really like find a lot of value and meaning out of the training that you're doing, and keep at it. I'll see you later.